And tonight I have a fabulous, fabulous lady, Gwen Purcell. And Gwen, I met her at the Encounter Quest in April in Hamlet, North Carolina. Absolutely fell in love with her and her husband. These two are legit. Gwen does do a lot of things with her research. She actually goes around the East Coast, talks to people. She's got her own merchandise that I'll be posting out down in the link. And what I really love about Gwen is she goes out and she talks to students. She tells them to get off of that Game Boy and get out in nature. And Gwen, I'm gonna give it to you.
Well, it's great to be with you. I'm really excited.
Well,
Um,
thank you so much.
yeah, we just signed up to be sponsors at Encounter Quest this year, so we're going to be
That
back. So I hope to see you there.
absolutely. I was walking there for a minute. I could see you guys again. And by the way, folks, I bought this from her.
I love
Check
it.
that out. Yes. Is that a better view? Yeah. I was going to surprise her, but she nailed me on it before we got
As soon as I saw the top of the shirt, I was like, "She's got my shirt on."
straight
Awesome,
out of the
awesome.
woods. I love it. I will be your number one buyer. I promise you. Uh, so I heard a little bit about everything that goes on around your home and everything
Yeah.
you do. Call some of your shows absolutely fabulous. I
Well,
hope you give yourself a plug now. You're free to do that because this is Gwen's time now.
I
You
yeah, things around my house are insane, and you know, I have to say there are some people that I get asked a lot if I think they migrate or they, are they nomadic or whatever. Different people have different beliefs. Um, in my opinion, just based on what I experience here at my own house, I don't think they migrate. I don't think they migrate at all. I really don't think they're nomadic. I think it's really going to depend on the area that they're in, their food supply, their water supply, how long they're going to stay here. Because we have activity pretty much year round. So to nail it down to like one window of time is impossible because it's all the time.
what made you a believer?
Oh my gosh. I in February of 21, I saw one crossing a cornfield literally a stone's throw from my house. And I was like, I've hunted my whole life. I've hunted since I was a little girl. And I I was like, I've hunted in this area my whole life. So I was like looking at this thing and I'm like, what the heck? Like we were driving somewhere and we pulled up to the stop sign and you can either go left or right. So we were going somewhere. My husband doesn't pay attention to nothing because he didn't see it. He didn't see this giant, great, big black thing crossing the cornfield. And at my first thought, I was like, oh, somebody's out in the cornfield. And then I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Like I kept watching it. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not a person. Like the farmer who owns the field doesn't even live close. So when he comes with a tractor. And I'm like, there's no tractor there. And this thing was like moving. It was fast going across that cornfield. And I was like, there's no way that's a bear. Like I'm trying to rationalize. All afternoon I was like real quiet, like running this through my head. And I'm like, that could not have been a bear. As much as I want to say it was a bear, the stance of it crossing the cornfield, like there's no way a bear would walk that fast at that stride. They have short little legs, they take shorter, smaller steps. So like at the end of the day, my husband was like, why are you so quiet today? It's unusual for me. And I'm like, did you see that thing in the cornfield? And he was like, what thing? And I'm like, oh, for heaven's sakes. Like, didn't even catch it. And I said, you're not going to believe this, but I think it was a Bigfoot. And right away, he was like, get out of here. You're insane. So I started researching right then and there if there's been any Bigfoot reports in our area. And there has been, clear back to 1979 was the earliest one I could find. And I was like, I can't believe this. This is insane. And it just went down the rabbit hole from there. It's been nonstop since. I said Bigfoot 365.
Well, well, with your job and your career, you're trained to function and observe under stress.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I noticed things that normal people would never notice going into people's houses. And, we leave the scene and I'm like, did you see that? Did you see that? My partner's like, no. And I'm like, what? People don't pay attention. I pay attention to everything. But
So, so since that was that daylight or nighttime?
it was broad daylight. It was like
Well,
lunchtime.
bears are kind of dopey when they walk. They're like the doo
Yeah.
doo doo. Yeah, I
No, this
say
one was
you know
like
the difference.
calling it.
So what after that encounter? I know it takes a while for it to sink in because you're gonna second guess yourself and
Sometimes even now, years later, I'm like, was that really what I saw? Like, but it's what I saw. I know what I saw, and people can argue with me all they want, but I know I that's the only thing I can come up with that it was a Bigfoot. And I don't anybody can argue with me if they want to. They can
so
also
the more
because
I love it.
yeah.
When you went down the rabbit hole because that's exactly what it is.
It's a
You
rabbit hole.
like year one, you're just dead set. You think you know what it is. Year two, you're like, I never thought I'd be someone saying this.
Yeah.
But so you started noticing things around your home.
Yeah, there was really weird things that happened before I saw the Bigfoot. Like I didn't like the woods around our property. They creeped me out. I always felt like I was being watched all the time. And I was a paranormal investigator, so I chalked it up to, it's got to be something paranormal. And then after I saw the Bigfoot, my husband was like, one day out of the blue, he was like, how about all those other times, like before you saw the Bigfoot? And I went, oh my gosh, what if it was Bigfoot the whole time? And yeah. So
how long did it take you to really go out in the field and just say that this is what I'm gonna do?
it was almost immediately.
You just drug the husband by the ear.
He'll go with whatever I want. So I was like, I'm going out in the woods. Okay.
I'm there.
Yeah, he would like to see one or have an experience because he has not. I mean, he's had like we'll be out in the yard doing something and it'll be getting dark, and something will come. You can hear it clear in the leaves. It goes swoosh, 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 and then then you hear it hit the ground like 5 feet away, and we'll both be out there, and he'll look up at me and he'll go, "Did you see that?" I go, "Huh, I saw it." And and then he's like, "I'm going in the house." He's like, "Are you coming?" I'm like, "I'll be in a few minutes." If he wanted to hit me with the rock, he would have. Like
so he was a big supporter.
Yeah, he's very, very supportive of everything. I still think he thinks I'm a little crazy, but that's all right.
Well, I tell my husband, you married crazy, so deal with it.
Exactly.
So tell us about some of your field experiences and what you look for and what kind of makes that flag go up where you say, I got to go over here.
Yeah, I do honestly, I do a lot just based on my gut feeling. Like if I get that spidey sense that pops up or a sound will catch my attention and I kind of like hone in on where that sound came from. I don't put a whole lot of emphasis on tree structures because physics is a wonderful thing. And if you have just the correct amount of wind and, I hated physics in high school, but now I say that all the time. Physics is a wonderful thing. You just can't bank on certain things. Now, I'm always the one when I see something, I'm like looking for the rest of the tree. Like, where did this section come from? Like, and if I can't find the rest of the tree, then I'm like, okay, well, that's suspicious. Like, the wind isn't going to grab a whole entire giant branch and carry it through the woods. Like, it would have had to come somewhere relatively close to where it's landed. And if I can find it, then I just note it. I'm like, okay, well, there's that. But
you also know what's in your environment. You know the sounds around your house. You know what's normal, what should be there, what shouldn't be there.
And I've been in these woods a lot, so I know. Yeah, I can go out there now, and if I see a new tree that's down, I'm like, well, that wasn't there before. Because I'm always out there, so I know what our wood line looks like. I know where all the groundhog holes are, and like I don't have a problem running through there. Now I did have Sean Forker and Matt Arner over one time, just to see that I wasn't crazy. I'm like, hey, come over. We'll go out in the woods. It was like midnight. We're all sitting in the woods out here, and it's really steep. Like the wooded section of our yard goes down really steep, and then it crosses a creek and goes up really steep on the other side. And I took them down across the creek, up the other side. And on the way back, Sean was like, if you weren't here to guide me through this, he goes, I'd be out here with a broken leg. I'd step in one of these groundhog holes or I trip over one of these giant rocks. He's like, if somebody's messing with you, they're doing a hell of a job. But he said, I don't think anybody's messing with you. You just know this terrain. But if it weren't for you, I'd die out here, because he'd fall and break a leg and,
Yeah. So what's the most abnormal behavior that you feel like you can contribute to Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
Um,
Sorry.
no, there's just so much. I think probably the weirdest thing that I've personally experienced was them. I actually caught something looking in my bedroom window. And when I say I caught something, I don't know. I'm not going to say it was a Bigfoot, but I was home alone and I was getting ready to go to bed. I don't even remember what time it was. I think it was after 10 o'clock, I think. And I went to close the mini blind in our bedroom and I saw these two red eyes looking up at me.
Wow.
And I was like, but that's all. There was no body. It was just two red eyes. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, all the lights are off inside my house. So first thing I thought is, what's making that reflection? So I'm looking all over the house for something that would be making a red reflection, and there wasn't anything. So of course I grabbed my handgun and a flashlight. I went outside, excuse me, and I started taking pictures. Like, I took a picture of the window, and then I took another, kind of panned the yard and then came back to the window. And when I came back to the window, it was less than a minute, because everything gets time stamped. There was 3 muddy fingers on my window that weren't there the first picture. So in less than a minute, something put a fingerprint on my window, but I never saw anything. There was nothing there. Like,
did it ever occur to you, Gwen, that you could have been a Scooby snack running out the door like?
It hit me afterwards, because I did not see the handprint in the photo right away. It was like a month later. Daniel Benoit had come up to hang out with us, and I showed him the pictures, and he said, what is that handprint on your window? And I was like, what handprint? And I blew it, I made it big, and sure enough, there was 3 fingerprints there. And I was like, what? I was standing there the whole time. Like, if something wanted to get me, I was right there. Like,
Could have been a Scooby snack.
oh my gosh, I had a handgun on me. I'm not afraid to use it, but I was like, what the hell? Like, it was really.
Have you ever had aggression or their person, without seeing them, they can have personalities and you can pick up on that? What do you see? What's around your house? Their personalities? Are they tricksters? I know they're curious of you to look in your window.
Yeah. I don't keep that window open anymore, by the way. It's closed all the time. I don't want to know. I would have to say what's around our house is pretty, I don't want to say playful, but they're not aggressive. The night that I had Sean and Matt here and we were actually in the woods, the next morning I came out and my husband said, you see that sumac tree over there? And I'm like, yeah. And he says, that was standing yesterday. And I said, yeah, it was standing, because I have bees. I have 2 beehives, and it was down by the beehive. And this sumac tree, now it's a poisonous tree, ain't nobody going to be touching it, was bent in half, like 5 feet up. It was snapped off, and it was still green. The leaves were all green. It was a fresh break. And I was like, okay. And it was a little tense. Like, you could feel this tension in the air. And I was like, excuse me. I don't think he appreciated me bringing somebody else into the woods.
You think that's a trust thing? Because there's some people that just want to track them and kill them. Some people that just go in and totally ruin their habitat because they don't leave it better than how they found it.
I think here at this house, I think it's I don't want to say a relationship, because I don't know how they operate. I don't know how they work. I have not heard them speaking in some weird language or anything like that. But I think they're comfortable watching me, because I think they've been doing it for a long time. but I think they were not happy that I had a group of people out there. They don't mind if I go out there, but they didn't appreciate me bringing somebody else. So I have never taken anybody else into the woods since then. Not directly around our house. I have not done that.
So you have a mutual respect that
Yeah,
you learn to coexist.
Then I was like, oh, because it was just tense that next day. And I was like, I was sitting out in the patio and I was like, I think I'm going to go in the house. Like it was that tense. Like you could have cut the air with a butter knife. I was like, I'm just going to go in the house and sit because I'm not comfortable out here right now. Over a couple of days that all went away and everything was fine. But like I had Jessica Mora here this past June or July. And she spent the night here and we hung out. And we did go in, not down into those woods, but we did go into some wood lines. And we had stuff thrown at us. And I heard it coming, like I heard it clearing the leaves and it hit the ground. And I just sat there and I waited to see if she noticed it. And she sat up and she pointed and she was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, that's like, I'm not crazy. They're throwing stuff at us. That's.
You think they're more threatened by males than the females you bring on your property?
I do. I think so. Because they didn't, like, I did take Jessica into a patch of woods adjacent to those woods, but we didn't take her down there. And they didn't seem to care about that. So I think maybe it was because she was a female. They were like better, I don't know, better about it. But my girlfriend, Carrie, used to come here. You've met Carrie. Her and I used to camp in the yard in tents, and we would set voice recorders out all night long. And we had the strangest things. We've heard footsteps walking around our tents. The one night was really crazy. I actually heard giggling, like I heard it with my ear, and I thought, oh, Carrie must be. Her husband was with her, and I was like, they must be talking, and she laughed, and I just kind of rolled over and went back to sleep. I was like, didn't give another thought about it. When the morning when I woke up, she was sitting by the fire waiting for me, and I was like, hey, what's up? She's like, no hello or anything. She was like, do you talk to your chickens? And I'm like, yeah, because we have a chicken coop there. And she's like, what do you say to your chickens? And I'm like, hello, ladies. Girls, and she's like, I heard your voice come from the chicken coop at like 6:00 in the morning. She said, I thought you were awake. I got up to come out and talk to you, and you were sound asleep in your tent. And I got it all on the audio recorder. And I was like, wow. So like I got something mimicking me. It was pretty crazy. And they seem to love when Carrie's here. And then she moved to Tennessee, so she hasn't been back this summer at all. But when her and I would sleep out in the yard, I never had anything bad happen. I did have that one night where I heard something walking around and I was almost frozen in fear. I couldn't move. I was in my tent and the gun was laying right next to me on the floor of the tent. I was like, I couldn't even reach for the gun. I was like, just paralyzed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I don't know if that's infrasound or what, but I could not move. I just was like laying there. I was like, I don't even want to blink because if it hears me blink,
yes.
Like, oh my gosh.
But you keep going back.
I do. I keep going back. It's crazy.
You keep going back. I understand that. So when Carrie left, you lost your ride or die partner, didn't you?
I did. That witch.
You want to give her a shout out and give a good memory of
her? Carrie, if you're watching, you need to come up here because I miss you and we need to camp out in the yard.
Carrie, you should do that. She has a gun and she's not a
That's okay. She's got a gun too, so we're good. Okay.
So when you're talking about that gut feeling and everything that you experienced on your property, I'm just curious, how do the people in the community take to you? Did they say, hey, you would not believe this, but since you're out there, I'm gonna tell you what happened to me? Or did they just say, here's that crazy woman?
Oh, the people who live directly around me think I'm just a crazy lady because I will just go up to them and say, have you heard anything? Have you seen anything? And they go, no, Gwen, we haven't. They're just like, oh my gosh. We just got new neighbors on the other side of us. I mean, it's a community, but we're kind of spread out. So like I walked over there and introduced myself when they moved in, and he was like, "Are you the lady that did the Bigfoot festival?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I've heard about you." I was like, "Oh man."
They should give you a door prize then.
No. I have Bigfoot signs all over my property, so I'm sure he saw them too. But most of the people around the area, a lot of them make fun of me. They think it's funny, and I don't really care. I mean,
Yeah,
to whatever, but you're not offending me by laughing. It's okay. But I do get phone calls from people saying, I mean, I got one in November that said, "Hey, they're moving through my area. You can hear them whooping and hollering." And I was like, okay. And this was a guy that approached me at the festival and was like, "Do you really think there's Bigfoots around here?" Like, he was real skeptical. And I was like, "If I hear something, I'm calling you." And I'm like, "Okay." And he did. And I was like, "Oh my goodness." But people are opening up, so that's good.
they are. Yes, I agree with that 100%. And you know, it's hard for people to open up when you get as much ridicule.
Oh my
I
God. Yeah.
I spoke with someone really high in politics in North Carolina, and he has it on his property, but he's not gonna go tell a story.
Oh, because
Yeah,
people make fun of you. They ridicule you terrible and they call you crazy and nobody believes anything you say. And well, I am crazy, but I
I
also
think you got a T-shirt somewhere in that.
I also don't make things up, and I hate hoaxing and lying. So like if I'm ever somewhere and I catch somebody hoaxing something, I will beat the hell out. No, not really beat the hell out of them, but
Oh, it's okay. You in the woods, girl. It don't apply
I
to
really,
you.
and I start yelling and screaming and telling them to get out, and I will blacklist them everywhere. I'll be like, watch out for this person because I caught them doing this, and
It
yeah,
also gives a bad name to people that are genuinely going out there and trying to follow
yes,
through with an experience they have, and that just totally just destroys the whole community sometimes.
and then you get the people like the well-known people that hoax. Like I don't know for sure the Todd Standing thing or any of that. Um, I don't know him personally. I've never spoken to him. I have heard that he hoaxes things. I've heard all the stories. And people have said to me, "Why don't you interview him on your show?" And I'm like, because I don't like I don't want to even be associated with that. Like even if I mean, if he comes on my show, he better be prepared because I'm not going to be nice. I'm going to say, "Hey, did you do this? Let's just flat out get it out in the open, I mean, let's have an honest conversation about it." But he's not going to be honest about it if he is hoaxing things. And I just don't want to put myself in that position. I don't want to even associate with people who are thought to be hoaxers or liars or because you just don't need that when you're trying to research something. You just don't need it.
Do you get called out a lot to go to people's properties?
I do. I do for all kinds of stuff. I got a guy an hour from me that's got Bigfoot activity and UFO activity. He's messaged me pretty much on a daily basis. "You're never going to believe what happened last night." Like, I'm like, okay. Yeah, I get people all the time. Hunters, especially hunting season just ended here. I'm waiting for my phone to ring because that's what happened the
Yeah.
last 2 seasons. Yeah, people just start calling me, "Hey, I had this encounter in the woods, something really weird. I can't explain it. Noises I've never heard before. It sounded like something was walking up on me, 2 feet." And I'm like, okay, I take all their information down. I keep it quiet because a lot of people don't want me to. They don't mind if I share their stories, but they don't want anybody to be able to realize that it's them. So you get
So
those.
let's get back to your property. So your husband's a believer.
He is.
He so do you find that you've had coworkers or friends that just don't want to be anywhere around you now, or
I have had people say to me, "I'm not coming to your house." But they're not people that I would normally invite to my house anyway. So I'm like, okay, don't come. It's all right. I don't care. But I have had people say to me they don't want to come to my house. I'm like, yeah.
it'd be all right. I don't, yeah. It's all right.
I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But
Well, I would actually, I would actually like to hear some of your experiences and just, I mean, I know when I've had different types of it, and I know not every Bigfoot's the patty type. In North
Right.
Carolina, most people that I talk to is tall, athletic build, has useful muscles,
Mm-hmm.
and looks, what do you think you have on your property? Do you think it's the patty type, or do you think it's a combination, or?
I think what we have, just based on, for example, last Christmas Eve to be exact, we were having a Christmas party at 6:30. My trail cameras that I have set up along the property caught eye shine behind my chicken coop, which is where they like to be, um, at 6:34. So it
Wow.
was literally like standing behind the chicken coop watching people show up to my house. And I got the eye shine, and a friend of mine is a police officer, and I had, conversed with him, and I'm like, hey, I got to get out there and figure out how tall this subject was, because all you can see is the eye shine. And I was like, okay. So I go out there, and just based on where the eye shine was in the tree, you find where it is in the tree and you look like limbs and everything. I estimate the Bigfoot to be 9 or 10 feet tall. Tall. He's very tall. The second set of eye shine that was in the same photograph was about 6 or 7 foot tall. And I was pretty sure that we had at least a juvenile and maybe an adult. So that kind of confirmed that maybe it's a juvenile and an adult. And so the one that I saw crossing the cornfield was very tall, very broad, very muscular. Um, kind
Like
of like
on all fours, or?
he was walking upright on two legs crossing that cornfield. He was huge. And I had seen
Wow.
a couple weeks later a hunter come out of the woods, and I remembered remarking how small the hunter looked compared to how big the Bigfoot looked crossing that field. And I was like, holy shnikes. Like, I think that Bigfoot was a lot bigger than I thought it was, just based on, I mean, you looked over in the same spot, this man's coming out of the woods, and you could make out that it was a man, and you could, like, just because he had orange on from hunting, so you could see that he's coming out from hunting, but you're like, he's teeny weeny. And this giant Bigfoot that I saw was huge. Like, that really put it into perspective when I saw that guy come out of the woods hunting, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I think they're very big here. And I've had other people say that have seen them that it was very large
Do you
and black.
think do you find a change in their behavior when hunting season comes? Because I'm thinking people are all in their, areas, and
Yeah, and they've got weapons and guns. And um, I have not hunted for 7 years. I'd had shoulder surgery, and I don't want to. And then a year or two ago, I had a second shoulder surgery. So I'm like, I just don't want to. And I just can't kill anything now. I'm just like, what? I can't. I'm like, how did I kill deer before this? I don't even know. But Bigfoot's ruined me for hunting. But I don't even hunt anymore. But I think they get, I don't want to say more aggressive, but I think they get more um,
protective.
protective is a good word. Yeah, because now you've got all these guys out there in the woods. They've all got guns, and I think they get more protective of themselves and their young or their area. And so, like, I have hunters say that they hear, crazy noises in the woods, and I'm like, well, he's probably trying to get you out of there.
Do you,
He wants you to leave.
yeah, you're in my home. Do
Yeah.
you ever talk to hunters that have their deer disappear after they shoot them, or they're anything abnormal like that?
Just recently, as a matter of fact, a hunter called me and asked me if I thought a Bigfoot would take off with his deer because they couldn't find it. They found blood. They followed this blood trail, and then there was a big spot of blood where obviously it had laid there. But when they went to find it, it was not there. They had the big pool of blood, but no animal. And he was like, somebody who thought, Bigfoot, I was crazy. So I think it took a lot for him to call me, but he was like, do you think Bigfoot would take my deer if I shot a deer? And I'm like, oh, probably, it's easier than trying to catch it and kill it himself. So yeah, I would think they'd be a predator of opportunity.
People think they're crazy until they need you, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Then they're like, "Maybe she's right."
Now, do you have a lot of small game by your around your house, or do you think they just deplete the
Oh no,
food supply?
got some squirrels that run around in the woods. I've seen a chipmunk. I actually photographed a chipmunk in our woods, and I did see a raccoon once come down out of a tree on the property. So I know we have at least that, and I there's a possibility that I heard a fisher cat one night, but I have not seen one, and that's the only time I've ever heard it. It sounded like a woman screaming, and it was the night that Sean and Matt were over that I took them out into the woods. We heard this god awful screaming, and we all ran to the woods to see what it was. And as soon as we got to the wood line, the screaming stopped, and I have never heard it again.
Wow.
So,
So you have them mimicking you on your
yeah,
property. You get some really outstanding vocals too, don't you?
we do. We do. I've gotten them howling at 6:30 in the morning when I go to work. I go to get in my car, and I heard this big howl, and I nearly dropped everything in my arms and was like, "Oh my god!" I got my phone out. I video. Well, of course, that's all I had was my video. So I hit the video button so that I could at least record the audio, and you can hear it in the distance. Now, when you put it on a big speaker and make it really loud, there's actually two howls. You hear the high pitched howl, and then there's an undertone howl that comes in underneath it that I didn't hear until we played it on a big speaker and was able to really amplify it. And I was like, "What is that?" Like, just two of them communicating. And then a couple
Yeah,
of
well,
weeks ago, my husband came in. He was out with the dogs, and he came in and he's like, "Get out here right now!" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what?" And I got out there, and there was one howling, and he
wow.
freaked out. And I was like, "Ah!" That was crazy.
So I think a lot, and correct me if you don't agree with me. I think a lot of people have experiences and they don't realize it. But like you and I, you start to pay attention when you actually see what's out there, and you realize things kind of fall in place and make sense from the past. And um, you had a lot of things going on in your property, and after your experience, your sighting, everything just kind of fell into place. How long ago, or how long was that activity going on before you had
Before
your
I realized
sighting?
what it was.
Hmm.
I moved into this house in 2017 with my husband when we were still dating, and it was immediate that I felt like I don't know how many times I said to him, "The woods creep me out. Like, I don't want to go down there." I begged for him to move the chicken coop because I didn't want to be down there at the wood line because it was creepy and I didn't like it. And of course, moving the chicken coop was out of the question. We weren't moving the chicken coop. It's like an act of God to move that thing. And I literally was like broke down and crying. "I don't
Wow.
care, I just drag it through the grass with the truck." And he's like, "You're gonna tear up all the grass." "I don't care." Like,
Wow.
yeah, it was immediate that I was like, "These woods, I just don't know." And even the neighbor kid said to me years ago when he was outside playing, he always felt like something was watching him too. And I was like, "Okay, well." And
And now
again,
you run right.
yeah, I was a paranormal investigator, so I was thinking paranormal stuff, right? And then I saw the Bigfoot, and a couple weeks later, my husband was like, "What if it's been Bigfoot this whole time?" And I'm like, "Oh, wow." That's when you start thinking back, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I heard that, or when this happened." And then you're like, "Oh crap!" Like,
And they never mess with your chicken or any
oh
livestock, or
no, they had attacked the chicken coop. I've lost several chickens. Yeah,
you go down there and just put your foot down and say, "Hey, not today, not my
I
chicken."
fixed the chicken coop very quickly. Um, and the sad part is that I was so like I came home from work and a chicken was out in the yard, which they have a fully enclosed pen. There's even a roof. over it. So I was like, how the hell did she get out? So I get down there, I get her back in the pen, and I start to do a walk around to see where she got out. And I walk to the side, and the whole bottom is pulled out. And it's like heavy fencing, and it's stapled in there with these U-shaped tacks you got to beat in with a hammer. And it just looked like somebody put their fingers in between them and just pulled it out. And I was like, what the hell would do that?
You
And
know
then
now.
I went around the back side, and it's chicken wire across the top. And it literally was just undone and rolled back like a tuna can lid, like a sardine can. And I was like, what the hell? Like, it wasn't torn up, it wasn't destroyed, it was just rolled back. I literally rolled it back and stapled it back in place. Went and got more U-shaped tacks, fixed the bottom, and I was like, raccoons are not, I don't think they'd be strong enough to get their fingers in there and pull that out like that. Those were in there. And to roll the chicken wire fencing, just roll it back. I was like, what the hell? And the chickens, and some of my chickens were gone, and their feathers were everywhere. And I was like, well, something that I've gone through. I still do that. If it could have been a bear, I don't think so. Like, I think you would have posable thumbs to do. A bear would have just ripped it apart, right? It would have just tore everything to hell. This was like, it was just weird. Like, I fixed it in 5 minutes, no problem.
Wow. Do you think the dynamic of the relationship you have with them and their behavior changed once they realize, hey, she knows we're here?
I do, I think. Because I'm not afraid to go into the woods anymore. So I have gone out there already and just sat. Just find a tree, sit down, just be very quiet, just pay attention to, whatever's around, birds and squirrels and whatever. And it's been really relaxing and not, I still feel like I'm being watched, but it's not as creepy as it once was. So nothing aggressive has happened to me here. So,
well, Gwen, you're like live TV for the Bigfoot.
I currently have 44,000 photos to go through on my game trail cameras. And I don't know when I'm going to get the time to go through all of those, but I have 2 cameras out there. They each have a camera card, and there were 22,000 pictures.
Wow.
Each card when I just pulled them last week. I was like, I don't have time to go through 22,000 photos on one card. Like, so
wow.
I need like a week vacation so I can just do that.
Yeah. Well, that's where hubby earns his keep. You just
right. Look at this. You can see anything.
Well, he seems to be as excited as you are. I know when I met you guys, at the conference that back in April, he was really excited about it and was, chiming in with his own, stories.
Yeah.
And
he's really funny because we'll be at festivals and conferences, and I have a clothing brand called Got Knockers, and people look at him like he's some kind of pedophile or something, and because they're like Got Knockers, and you see him standing there, and I hear him 9 million times going, "It's my wife's brand. It's my wife's brand." Because people are just like, well, that's kind of creepy. They see this guy standing there with this Got Knockers stuff, and they think he's talking about boobs, and he's like, "I'm not talking about boobs."
That's what crossed my mind the first time. I was like, and then you popped up, and I'm like, oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's really funny. I find him doing that a lot. I hear, and every time I hear him say it, I just chuckle because I think it's funny.
So can you, when you're on your property, not to change the subject, because I have so many questions that, I think you're fabulous and what's going on your property is out. And I like the way you treat people too. So do you think that, well, let me ask you this. Have you lost any more chickens after you discovered what was on your property?
Just that one time. I haven't had
Just that one time.
anything happen to him since then.
Do you find that their energy or the energy you feel around your property changes with certain events or certain, like if a storm comes through, do you ever find anything where they left you something to say, okay, we're okay, we're here? Or
I get golf balls a lot on the property, which is kind of weird because we got golf balls. I would find golf balls on the property before I even saw Bigfoot for the first time. And I was never a believer of Bigfoot before having that sighting in the cornfield. And I used to think, who the hell is playing golf around here? Because the golf course is 2.5 miles away. I'm like, I don't think squirrels or raccoons are dragging those golf balls for 2+ miles. I just don't see that happening. And then and then Bigfoot happened, and I was like, I wonder who's bringing me golf balls, because I think I know now who's bringing the golf balls. But
what do you
Jessica,
think?
Jessica, when she was here, when we went in our walk in the woods there on my property, we found the remains of one of my dead chickens, and around it were 5 golf balls laying there. Yeah, because I was telling Jessica about the golf balls, and so we were walking around in the woods, and I'm like, "There's feathers here," and then there was the dead carcass of the chicken, and I'm looking around, and there's 1, 2, 3, 5 golf balls. Oh my god! Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, were the golf balls laid out in a certain way, or were they scattered, or
scattered around? There didn't
so what do you
any pattern or anything to them. They were just kind of scattered there.
So all this time they were playing, I'll give you a golf ball for your chicken, and you didn't even know,
I didn't even know it.
didn't even know it. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How do you think they? How
What's
do you
even
think
more
they survived
funny?
the horror? Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No.
No, you go ahead.
What's funny is I find that we have a rooster, and he's an asshole. In fact, I call him asshole all the time. And usually at nighttime, he's in the coop with the girls, and he's usually quiet. I know when something's going on or something's around because he carries on like crazy. You'll go outside to let the dogs out at 2 o'clock in the morning, and this rooster is just crowing like there's no tomorrow. And you're like, okay, like, that's kind of weird because usually he's quiet. So I just, I kind of make a note of it and like, okay, the rooster's acting up tonight. Something's outside, get the dogs. Come on, dogs. Let's do your business and get in the house, because I don't know how Bigfoot feels about the dogs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some tales about some dogs.
Yeah, I don't want to find out because I love my dogs. Bigfoot and I are going to have a real problem if he kills one of my dogs.
He might know that. They might know that. They let live. They might know that. Do you ever get any negative energy, or you ever go out there on whether it's your property or someone else's property to do, an investigation? And I really hate to use an investigation. To me, it's curiosity. I need to validate and have fun doing it.
Absolutely.
And I'm lighthearted about it, but I know there's dangers in it.
Absolutely. I have not ever had a feeling of being in jeopardy or being in a bad place at the bad time or having any kind of negative experience whatsoever. I equate it to this: when you're standing out in the middle of the woods, it's kind of like when you're at home and somebody walks into the room, but you haven't seen them, but because you can just feel that somebody else is in the room. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
You get that feeling when you're in the woods too, because you'll be in the woods and you'll be standing there and it's pitch dark and it just changes. It's almost like you're no longer by yourself. You know what I mean? Like It's almost like somebody has just walked into the room, but you haven't seen them yet. And I get those feelings and I've already said to the guys that I'm with in the woods, and I'm like, did you feel that? I'll say, did you feel that? Because I don't think we're alone anymore. And I'm not going to say that a Bigfoot has walked into the woods, because until I see it, I can't guarantee 100% say, yes, this was a Bigfoot, but something walked into the area that we are in, and you can feel the change. You know what I mean? You just feel the change.
energy changes.
Well, yeah, the energy changes. Yeah. And I'm like, we are not alone in here. I don't know what it is, but we are not alone standing here. So, keep your eyes and ears peeled because we're not by ourselves.
Well, you said you used to do paranormal investigations. Do you think the two worlds cross?
Oh, I don't know. I try to keep an open mind to everything. Like I've heard the alien stories and the interdimensional stories and the portal theories, and I've heard all of this stuff, and I try not to, like, because I personally haven't seen any of that. So I try to keep an open mind because I don't know how they move. I don't know if they're going in and out of portals. Until I see one physically walk out of a portal, I'll be like, okay, it's a portal thing. But I don't know. Like, are they like ghosts? Can they just appear and disappear? Are they cloaking? I don't know. So I try to keep an open mind to everything. When I see an alien spaceship fly overhead and a light comes down and a Bigfoot drops, I'll be like, okay, aliens. Yes, there we go. But
There's your sign.
I can't jump on board any of those things because I just don't know. One of us is right, and
Yeah.
all of us are wrong. So just like, I don't
Do
jump on
you
the wagon in particular.
do you get a lot of reports of UFO sightings with your Bigfoot reports?
I actually have gotten a lot of UFO reports with Bigfoot sightings. It's kind of uncanny.
Yeah.
I can't say that I haven't because I have gotten a lot of them. And I try not to, like, when I'm out in the woods and I see an alien spaceship fly over and one comes down, I'm sold. And so I think there's a coincidence maybe, but I think all of these reports can't be coincidences. Like there has to be some kind of something, but I just don't know what it is. So
What do you think about people seeing orbs right before or after they have an encounter or in the
that's another strange phenomena that I have actually seen an orb. We were at a property not far from my house, a couple towns over in some state game lands. And we had taken one of my got knockers bats along. It was me and my girlfriend Carrie and her husband and their daughter. And Matt Arner was with us. Excuse me. And I did a tree knock. And this blue orb showed up in the middle of the woods. And it was just real slowly, like, bobbling around. And all five of us saw this thing because we were like, what the hell? Like, and I had a video camera. I recorded the whole thing. But when you watch it on playback, you can't see the orb. The orb's not there. But you could hear us all talking about this orb. And I'm looking in the direction of the orb, but it did not show up on the video.
Wow, you said it was blue?
It was like it was a real light or a bright bluish white light. Because we went back a couple of weeks later when Carrie and her husband were up. We went back a couple of weeks later and we walked out to where we saw that blue light to see if there was a house, if there was some kind of road. And there wasn't. Like, you went out so far on this, we're in state game lands, so there's thousands of acres there. We walked out and it dropped off. There was no houses, no cars, no nothing. We were like, what the hell? Like, it's still it's one of those experiences we have that we absolutely cannot explain. But I don't know what the hell it was. Weird.
So the further you go down the rabbit hole, the more it does not make sense.
Nothing makes sense. Nothing at all.
So just to wind it down a little bit in short, when you if you would like the world to know something about your experiences or something that you just really want to get out there concerning your experiences, or just it could be about the people you've met, what is something that really positive that you could leave, both positive, give me a positive and a negative, because I'm winging this is our
that's what I like about the show. It's the not so not so, what is it? How did you call it? The not so,
Bam, you're on the Not So Perfect Bigfoot
right,
show.
the not so perfect Bigfoot show. I love it. Because this whole thing is not so perfect. The whole world of Bigfoot is not so perfect. It's the perfect name for a show. I would have to say, and I, this is something I try to leave. Like I go to middle school and high schools, and I have a presentation that I put on, and I take my casts along. I bought some casts from Cliff Barackman and from Michael Freeman, and I took some casts on my own property, and like I have a cast of my dog's print. They're 110-pound bloodhounds, and their paw print is bigger than this palm of my hand. So I take them along for reference, so you can see like the different shapes and stuff. And the thing that I try to leave in the minds of the teachers and the students that are listening to me ramble is that they are the future of our research. When we all get old and we pass away, if we don't get these kids interested in the research, everything we do, everything we've done, all of the thoughts and the consensuses and everything that we've drawn and come up, whatever conclusions we've come up to it dies with us.
Yes.
So my thing is to get, and not just students and little kids, but people of all ages, get them out from behind the TV and the electronics and the game systems and get them excited and get them interested. Because when I'm in the woods and I see a deer, I still get excited. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my gosh, did you see that deer? Like, it's like, it's awesome. And I think you use Bigfoot to get them interested. And I think once you can get them out and get them into the woods and they can see all kinds of things and hear all kinds of things, and I think you'll spark some kind of excitement in them that maybe will continue on. So research is, and I drive this home, research is super important, because without research, we're never going to get the answers. And without people coming forward to report their sightings and their encounters, no matter how strange or weird it is, we can't map like where they're living or how they're traveling, or are they nomadic? Are they migratory? Are they this? Are they that? How do they reproduce? We can't come to any of those answers unless people come forward and talk about their strange experiences. So that's.
And people always need someone to come to.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a really scary and uncomfortable feeling when you first admit to the world, I believe.
So. Very much so. I try to give people a safe place, because I'm the crazy Bigfoot lady. That's the first thing I tell people. Like a new employee starts at work and I'm like, hi, I'm the crazy lady that works here. And they laugh. And I tell them, yes, I believe in Bigfoot. And, I always have something Bigfoot on. It's usually a hat. When I'm at work, I wear my hat. I have got my Bigfoot earrings in. It always sparks up 9,000 conversations everywhere I go. I walk through Walmart. Some lady's like, oh, I like your earrings. And I'm like, well, I researched Bigfoot. And they're like, you do. It just opens the door to conversation. And then I hand out a lot of business cards that way in the hopes to get people to, say, hey, I was out hunting last week and, I heard this or this happened. And, you said you researched this kind of stuff and I'm coming to you, and, if they don't want me to share, I don't share, but I do record the information and I document it on my maps and I try to come up with some kind of theory.
Well, let's have a raw moment. What's the most negative part about going out and in the Bigfoot world in general?
The most negative thing, I gotta say, it's other researchers. I mean, you can scroll on Facebook at any given moment and somebody is ripping somebody apart because they don't believe in whatever this person said, or it's not. You have people that believe a certain thing and that's just the law. And I'm like, how do you know that? Because none of us know that. Like, you can't say you know that because none of us do. And it blows my mind how closed off some people are. And if they don't agree with you, it turns into this giant, great big argument. And I'm not here to argue with people. I'm here to figure out what the hell's going on. And if we worked together, things would get accomplished. But too many people are, I say all the time, I don't need to be rich and I don't need to be famous. I just want somebody to pay me to walk around in the woods all day.
There you go.
I don't care about anything else. I just don't want to do what I'm doing. I want to do what I want to do, and that's be in the woods all day long.
Well, I think you do a incredible job with your approach with people, and the fact that you bring, young adults into it, and you're honest, and you're, being candid with them. You never know what spark you start with them,
Exactly.
and years down the road, someone's going to, probably more than one's going to come up and say, Gwen, because of you, this is what I do.
I hope so. Because I will give them the biggest hug ever and be like, you are so welcome.
That's a good way to go out with your boots on, ain't it?
It is, absolutely.
Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a link to your merch and your website, and if you want me to, I can include your email.
Sure.
But before we go, we were talking earlier about doing a Christmas show, and one of the reasons we want to do it because we both, work in it, or I did for, I'm medically retired from mine, but worked in a first responder type atmosphere. Well, and in our jobs, we met a lot of people that's alone out there, and we kind of wanted to give back and do a show, and for those people that may be home alone and may not have anyone. And we haven't worked out the details yet, but I know when I mentioned it to you, you are all over it. You're like, yeah. And that's just how your heart is. That just sums you up as a prayer, and your husband wants to.
Yep.
And I do hope we can get Carrie on it, because that would be a good Christmas gift, to you.
Yep, that would be awesome.
Well, I want to say also you put a lot of work in your show and what you put out there, and that's got to be time consuming.
It is time consuming. It's very, and I'm about to embark on a whole nother show. I'm going to have 2 shows going at the same time. I contracted with a radio station, and they are building me an entirely new website and a store, and they're giving me my own podcast on their radio network. So that should start coming out in January as well. So it's going to be interesting.
That is outstanding. That is out, girl.
On January 17th, I'm doing a special show. It's a winter special because this is the break from my regular podcast called From Behind Tall Trees. We're actually doing a winter special on the Dyatlov Pass incident, where 9 hikers were killed. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of research on that, so I can be.
What's your theory on that? Or you want to wait until
as much as I'd like to say it was a Bigfoot, I can't. I can't even remotely come close to saying it was a Bigfoot. I don't know. I'm reading, like yesterday I was reading all of their diary, the things that they wrote in their diary. And as a mom, I was like, when I got to the last entry, I was kind of crushed, because I knew that after that last entry, they were dead. And it was like, oh my gosh, like I physically had to put it down and walk away. It's very emotional, and I've almost cried a couple of times. Today I've been going through like the searchers, timeline, and it's just a really sad story. But I think there's a lot more to it than we could ever fathom. But I don't think it's a Bigfoot at all. I don't think that's it at all. So
well, I look forward to listening to that show.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be nice.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on. I just love you to death, and I love your work, and I love to listen to you, and I just love that you love your friend.
Thank you.
Carrie, and I have a ride or die friend, Tina, that goes out with me, but sometimes she can't. So it's kind of like losing a part of yourself when your buddy goes.
It is, yeah.
You want to say anything to Carrie and Parton?
Oh, I love you, girl. I miss you. And you need to get back up here so we can do some more stuff.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Gwen. And You're very welcome. And you took all of my calls. And you helped me walk through some technical things, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate you. And I hope to have you back soon.
Absolutely. Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. There you go.
We're going to be on.
All right. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.